Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Celtic Warband here, and thanks for tuning in to another Napoleon Total War battle. I decided to do something a little differently. I did have a really good Napoleon Total War battle the other day, so I've decided that I'm going to upload it for you guys to enjoy. So sit back and let's take a look at the army comps. The first army that we're taking a look at in today's battle is Prussia, and this one is commanded by myself, and I've got two very elite units of foot guard over on this flank, followed closely behind by two units of lancers. This is my light shock cavalry. And then for my main force over here, the limit was at 4 skirmishers, so I've got 4 units of Jaegers. And then I have 7 units of musketeers. That's like the main body of my army. Here is my general staff over here. Well, actually, he's a special general, Gerhard von Schnarrhorst. And I probably slaughtered his name, but he's probably not alive to be upset about it. So, and over here I've got a 12-pounder foot artillery, a very long gun, so it's got some good range to it. And then over here, closer to my ally, I've just got 2 units of these very cheap landwehr. And that's it for my army, so let's go ahead and take a look at my allies. My allies' army, which is deployed to the left-hand side of Prussia, is Russia, commanded by Don Dave. And he's got a pretty superior cavalry force to mine. I brought some cheap dragoons, but he's got some of these lifeguard hussars. And he also has a unit of lifeguard Cossacks, and these guys are way, way, way on the flanks. The rest of his army over here, he has 3 units of Russian Jaegers, and then 1 unit of 17th Regiment Jaegers. And then on this side, he's got his Semenovsky Lifeguard, which is basically just a lifeguard foot with a fancy name. And then he has 2 other units of lifeguard foot, so that's all deployed on his left-hand side. And then basically the other 4 units here are musketeers, with the exception of this one. It's a Moscow musketeer, but again, I think it's just a specialized name for this unit. So, oh, sorry, I wanted to say so and at the same time. But Don Dave, he already has his 2 units of very elite cav, but he's also bringing 2 units of these dragoons. He's got 1 on either side of his general. And for his artillery, he's bringing a 20-pounder unicorn, so a pretty heavy-duty cannon for this battle. And then for his general, he just has the general staff. And that's pretty much it for his army. So without further ado, let's take a look at the enemies. The first enemy army we're going to take a look at is the French Empire, and this is commanded by Daemon. And he has this massive Grand Battery of the Convention here. It is 8 guns. It's an insane cannon. And a lot of his forces are moving forwards. However, for the rest of his army, he hasn't brought any cavalry or light infantry at all. It's just a bunch of line infantry. So I'm not going to go through all of it, but I do know the numbers. He has 7 units of Fusiliers of the Line. He has 3 on this side and 4 on the other. And then once we get into the middle, he has 4 units of this Polish Legion here. And he has 4 units of the Swiss Foot, and they're kind of staggered and mixed throughout his army. And then here is his general staff right here. So that's pretty much all his army. So it's not very mobile. So he's going to have to be very careful, especially against the Russian player, because the Russian player has a lot of cavalry to his advantage. So he's going to have to protect that cannon very well. But let's take a look at the last army comp, and then we'll get the battle started. The final army we're going to take a look at in today's battle is Great Britain, and this is commanded by the Red Celt. And he's got most of his infantry right here in this one picture in a very nice column, looking very organized. He has 5 units of foot for his front lines, and then his most elite units back here, he has the 42nd Black Watch, and he has a unit of foot guards as well. He has his general staff in behind the trees here, and he's also got very cavalry heavy, which is pretty concerning for me. I'm going to have to be very careful, because he has 3 units of life guards and 1 unit of horse guards, and my lances are not going to be able to stand up to this very elite cav from Great Britain. However, the good thing for me is that he's only brought a 6-pounder horse artillery, which is very inferior to my 12-pounder. So hopefully I'll have the cavalry advantage. And here are his lights. He's got 2 units of rifles and then 2 units of light foot. But that is about everything, and the battle is underway, so let's get to it. Alright guys, welcome to the battlefield, and the Russian player is already bombarding this very large French Grand Battery of the Convention here. We recognize right away that this is a crucial unit that needs to be just driven away from the battlefield. Yes, you can see that I'm firing with my cannon over here as well. Because this Grand Battery of the Convention, it has 8 cannons, so it already matches both of our artillery firepower combined. And that doesn't even include the 6-pounder horse artillery that is firing down on the likes of my men right now. However, you can see that we recognize that the French player actually doesn't have any cavalry. He isn't very mobile. He does have very good heavy infantry, but he's not going to be able to protect his cannon as well, I think, as he would like to. And that's why we've got some of the Russian dragoons actually coming through the trees here to try to eliminate this Grand Battery of the Convention quickly enough. Just running over here very quickly, you can see that the foot are lining up just kind of ready to capture this slight terrain advantage. And we've got them firing down on my foot guards, which is not good. That's not what I want them to be able to go for. Over here, you can see that we've got one of the Fusiliers of the line that's moving forwards to try to get in the way of the Russian Dragoons. But the Russian Dragoons, they're actually just going to go around. However, you can tell what a great Napoleon player I am because I actually got a shot off on his Dragoons, so a little bit of friendly fire there. But he's quickly trying to unlimber his Grand Battery of the Convention. And he's doing a pretty good job with his Fusiliers of the line and actually zoning this cavalry out. I think he's going to try and actually line up to get some shots off on these Dragoons. And this is heavy cavalry, so they are definitely not quick on the battlefield. Yeah, they're getting shot to bits right now. And the Grand Battery of the Convention actually firing at my Lancers and getting a really nice hit off on them. You can see that their morale is dropped. I've already lost 16 men to this Grand Battery. But the Heavy Dragoons have charged into melee, and I'm actually going to get a nice rear charge with my Lances. Oh, that camera shake, too. It's insane. But there we go. Nice charge into the back of that Fusiliers of the line. Meanwhile, right here, just catching the last attack on the Grand Battery of the Convention. And we're really trying to quickly rout this artillery piece off the battlefield, but we do have some Fusiliers of the line that are firing on the flanks of my Lances. Now, they are breaking, but I risk keeping them in melee long enough to actually get rid of them off the battlefield completely, because I do not want them returning, and there they go. So that is a huge blow to the French. Also over here, they're losing a whole unit of Fusiliers of the line to our cavalry. But the English player is just a little bit too far to be able to send some support. His cavalry never really would have made it there in time. But looking over here at my men, yeah, he's getting a couple of good shots off on my soldiers, but I think it's worth it at this point just to get rid of that Grand Battery of the Convention. It's really kind of put the ball in France's court, because he's now going to have to attack. I'm moving my foot guards over to the other side, because I do want to be able to support in the engagement against France. But we actually have another unit of Fusiliers of the line that went to try and get rid of our cavalry. But unfortunately, he didn't have the time to put them in square. And I'm going to get a nice charge as well with my Lancers into the side of this unit. So it's just been all-out cavalry right now. One of my units of Lancers is breaking. However, they were pretty depleted by the time they charged in. So I don't even care if I lose all my cav as long as we got rid of that artillery piece. The only thing I do have to be careful of, though, is that the Red Celt, who's playing as Great Britain, he has 4 very good units of cavalry. And that could really cause some problems for me. And looks like the Russian dragoons have broken as well. But my lancers are still holding in melee, as well as they can anyways, for cheap lances. And I'm just hoping I can break this second unit of Fusiliers of the line, because if I do, it means that we've gotten rid of 2 units of infantry plus the Grand Battery. But both of our morale really isn't looking very good at all. And it looks like they're forming up to fire, but they're actually firing at the Russian dragoons. And there we go, managing to break them. But I think they will return from routing because my dragoons have broken. So look at this slaughter already, just a couple of minutes into the battle. But at that point, I'm starting to fire down onto his cavalry. You can see we've already got a couple of good shots off on them. So Great Britain, I think, realizes that he's outgunned. His 6-pounder horse artillery isn't really doing as much damage as he would like to. However, I'm pretty happy with my position. I'm not going to go and assault that better terrain advantage that Great Britain holds. So I've decided to put down my stakes, and we're just going to wait for him to come to us. Not only is it better tactically, I think, but I'm also a terrible Napoleon player, and I'm even worse when I tried to go on the aggressive stance. So I'm just gonna sit here comfortably with my very elite musketeers and wait the inevitable onslaught that will arrive very shortly. And here we go. Looks like Great Britain, he's actually lining up his light infantry to move forwards into skirmishing position. But yeah, the more of this cavalry I can get rid of, the better it will be for me. Because as it stands, Great Britain, I think that their infantry is better than mine. Well, I know it's better than mine, because I just have musketeers. They have foot. And if anybody is known for their good infantry, it's Great Britain. And not only that, I think that these 2 units of Lightfoot actually are better than my Jaegers. He does have 2 cheaper units of rifles, which I think I can beat, but these Lightfoot, 120 men in them. Meanwhile, my Jaegers only have 80. So this is almost like bringing 3 units between the 2. We've got some advancing from the Great Britain player. I'm just going to look over at the French player here. The Russians have kind of moved over to face them, but the Russians have lights and the French do not. So that's going to be a big problem for France. He's going to have to be aggressive and actually get right into range of all that light infantry and start the battle himself. He cannot wait for the Russian player to come and, you know, just skirmish him down. He's going to lose so many men that way. Good teamwork by my ally as well. He's deployed a unit of dragoons over here to help give my very cheap infantry the edge against this cavalry. The only problem for me, basically, is these 2 units of Landwehr. If they get charged, it's game over for these 2. Like, there's no way they're going to be able to fight in prolonged melee against lifeguards. Are they lifeguards? I thought they were lifeguards. Yes, they are. And if these 2 units break, then that leaves my entire musketeer line open for an attack. But here we go. I'm actually getting the first shots off here with my light infantry. And we're targeting down that unit of rifles. They're already down to 65 from those 2 volleys. But I basically just got the stakes down because I don't have any cabs, so I don't have to worry about running my units into the stakes. But the Red Celt does have to worry about that. He's not going to be able to charge the front of my lines with my with his cavalry. My light infantry are pretty well protected. Ooh, except from those big artillery hits like that. But yeah, there go the rifles. 120 bullets flying, and only 60, less than 60 are returning. These are some massive stakes, too. I would not want to run onto these stakes. Also, just a side note on my videos, I've noticed that sometimes when I upload using my new PC, my volume is pretty good, but when I upload with my old PC, or if I record from my old PC, my mic is very loud. So I'm actually starting to bump my videos down to 85% volume, just so I'm not, like, starting by screaming in your ear. But if you find that the Napoleon sounds are too low, just let me know in the comments, and I'll just bump up the Napoleon sounds a little bit more so that you can hear. But I think that it's pretty well balanced, hopefully. I don't do a lot of Napoleon battles, so I haven't really optimized my settings for that yet. Oh, cannonball flying right past the camera. But how are these rifles doing over here? Down to 55, so they're still holding out. But you see that these the Lightfoot here are going to have to get in range. What he's trying to do is actually get in range to fire on my musketeer line, which is really smart. And what do we got over here? Yeah, these rifles. Still 75 men over here, so he's definitely winning the engagement over on this flank. But then on the other flank, my 2 units are really starting to gang up on these rifles. Looks like the Red Celt, he's moving his foot into position, but that's perfect for me. I would actually rather focus the foot with my Jaegers. But the foot is in range of my lights now, which also could be a problem. So I think that I just do leave them in the position that they're at. I'm not going to try and pull back anymore, because then I have to move forwards my musketeer line, and therefore I'd have to give up my position behind the stakes, which I'm not really looking forward to doing. But here we go. I'm moving my foot guards a little bit over towards the flank. I'm straightening out my line a little bit, which is good. I can turn on the mini-map for you guys to see, and just so we can jump over here. But yeah, the Russians haven't even started to attack the French yet. He's just moving his men into range now. So that's why we're kind of sticking more over onto this side. However, he does have his Lifeguard Hussars and his Lifeguard Cossacks kind of over on this flank. And the General's Bodyguard and the 6-pounder Horse Artillery are pretty undefended. He's just waiting for these cavalry units to actually engage, and then kind of the coast is clear for him to swoop in for the kill. He's also bringing his unit of Dragoons back over to that flank, so I'm basically on my own here. These foot guards, along with their landwehr, they need to hold the very elite English cavalry for as long as possible. But yeah, here we go. Now the actual line battle has begun. The great Prussian push. I can barely say that without slurring my words. But yeah, the morale isn't looking too good for the British, which is really nice to see. These musketeers are holding their ground. And I've got them spread out in a pretty thin line, because I want more of the guns to be firing at the same time. However, I'm just getting demolished over here. We've got the 2 units of foot with the Lightfoot and rifles right in front, and they're just causing some major problems for me over on this flank. However, I do have my landwehr that I've moved into range, and we're starting to pick apart the rifles now. But the Red Celt, he did see that the Lifeguard Hussars and the Dragoons were coming over to get his general, so he's pulled a few units back. However, Don Dave getting a nice rear charge on these foot guards here. However, the 42nd Foot Black Watch has formed square, so he's not going to be able to do any damage against that unit while they're in square formation. And here's my musketeers. I'm moving them forwards. I'm not exactly sure why. This kind of shows you what kind of player I am. I probably didn't even mean to do this, but the Red Celt's going to get a nice charge against my men there. But over here, oh, see, I'm missing it. I was waiting for this over here. Oh, you guys know me. I always wait for something to happen, and it doesn't happen, and I turn away, and I miss it. But basically, the Red Celt charged my foot guards, but I got them into square, and they've broken both of the units that I needed them to break. My landwehr, one of the units is breaking, but the other one held. This unit of landwehr held. And now I'm going to get my elite foot guards into melee. Oh my goodness, just gunning down these lifeguards as they rush in. And I've got my second unit there ready to fire down. So I really protected my flanks, which was huge. I've got my general coming over to this side just in case I needed him, but I think that we're good. However, one of the units, the general staff over here and the artillery unit, got hit by this unit of lifeguard hussars, and the general is in grave danger right now of dying. His men are fighting bravely on the battlefield. Little do they know that their general is fighting for his life over here against the Russian cavalry. I wonder which one he is. Can't really see. I think that's him right there with the little plume, right here. There he is. He's still in melee fighting right now. Oh, his horse glitched out and then he died. So yeah, there we go. The general for Great Britain has been defeated, and with my foot guards kind of being victorious against the cavalry on this flank, we're going to be able to get some nice flanking fire on this unit of foot here. And it looks like the Red Celt's actually just going to charge them right into melee against my foot guards. I'm hoping my foot guards can hold, even though they're quite depleted at this point. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on over here, because the Red Celt and his army of British have been almost destroyed. Yeah, look at this. The Russian musketeers are taking some casualties, but the help of the light infantry is doing some damage against the French. However, it looks like we've actually got a charge from the French coming into the Semenovsky Lifeguards over here on this left-hand flank. There we go. Looks like we got a counter charge as well. And I think the Lifeguards are going to win that engagement. But over here, the French seem to be taking quite a few losses. The Polish Legion is really struggling against the Musketeers combined with the Russian Jaegers. Oh, and the artillery is still coming down over on this side. General is keeping them inspired. Looks like the Musketeers were victorious over here on this flank, though, driving back some of the Swiss foot. So now they're going to start to put pressure onto the Polish Legion, or the flanks of the Polish Legion. But we've got a couple of units of Fusiliers of the Line and Swiss foot that have come back from routing. However, here comes my army. I'd say at about half health, and this is pretty huge for the Russians as well. He's still got his 2 units of cavalry, and they're just going to get rid of these units that the French player... I don't think he notices that they've come back from routing yet. Yeah, the flanks are really having some trouble. The Semenovsky Lifeguards actually breaking the Fusiliers of the Line over here with help of the Lifeguard foot. And the French have called a retreat. He does not like his positioning, so he's decided he's going to pull back to a better position. And we're still under the constant bombardment of the artillery. But I think it was a good call for the French player to pull back. I don't think he was, you know, just cheesing it or anything like that. It was because I'm putting so much pressure on his flank that really the only thing he can do is to pull back to a better position. But looks like he charged the French general in here, which is a risky move, especially against these Lifeguard hussars. And looks like we got some of the Swiss foot that are here as well. And we've got the Fusiliers of the Line fighting some of the heavy dragoons over here. I just love the look of this heavy cavalry. It looks really cool, but I've kind of heard mixed reviews on them because of how slow they are on the battlefield. I usually prefer to have very quick-moving cavalry, even if they get killed and, you know, they don't do well in melee. If I can get that good, quick shock charge off and break a unit or two before the cav dies, I think that's worth it. So, to each their own, I guess, though. But most of my musketeers are still alive. I think I actually have 6 out of the 7 units still left, and I think all 4 of my Jaegers survived, be it one at 27 and one at 20. But my poor foot guards over here, they're not loving life right now. they were in combat. They've taken a lot of casualties from the artillery, and they're still being told they need to run across this massive field for a couple miles. Okay, what's yeah, so we got the Swiss foot over here. It looks like they were trying to form up to charge my men while they were out of position. Looks like they're actually going for my lights. But there we go. They actually just took a couple shots and then broke off the battlefield.
The men are fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
I know they're fatigued, but we are pressing for the victory. So here we go. So he's got a couple of units of his Polish Legion over here on my flank. And then in the center, he's got some Swiss foot with a unit of Fusiliers of the line guarding against the Russians. But it's pretty clear who is going to be the victor. And I think this was only like my 3rd win out of all the Napoleon battles that I've played. So I think I win like 10% of the time or less, because I'd say I probably played about 30 Napoleon battles. It's just very hard for me to get the positioning. So like these Polish Legion, they look like they have a pretty good position right now. But if this terrain was any higher in front of them, they'd be firing right into the dirt and not getting any kills. And I constantly forget to check that my men have a good line of fire into the enemy. But yeah, this is actually a pretty nice position that the French player has chosen. And the French banners still fly. So with that in mind, there is hopefully hope. But the Russians, again, pushing forwards. I'm just going to speed this up just a little bit until we actually get into melee. Or into battle once more. And I think that about does it. French player realizes that he can't escape. He can't back up anymore on the battlefield. So he's just going to have to hope that his position holds. If only Napoleon Bonaparte was present in this battle, maybe they would have survived. Because I think, wasn't it Napoleon that quoted, whoever has the bigger artillery is the winner or something like that, or whoever has the most artillery wins? But there we go. Yeah, just getting some nice shots into the Fusiliers of the line. We've got the Dragoons flanking around, but there's just no hope, unfortunately. They're going to get a couple of shots off, but against these overwhelming numbers, there's just really not much they can do. Fire, men! For the glory of France! Get some last shots off before they charge into melee. You better hurry. Oh man, are they going to load up in time before the charge here? Or are they just going to fire at point-blank range? I'm not exactly sure. There we go. There's a charge in. Russian banner right in against the French banner there. And we've got some of the Dragoons coming in from behind. I think they're going for the very depleted general. And there he is. Oh, yeah. See you later. Oh, there he goes. He's fallen on the battlefield. And meanwhile, we're seeing my musketeers charging into melee against the Polish Legion. actually breaking my Polish legion, or sorry, actually breaking my musketeers, but I've got a very fresh unit that's going into melee next. Look at this guy over here, choking out my musketeer. I have no idea what's going on over here. These guys, I should have moved them over into melee, but they're just kind of standing there. They've got shell shock. And the rest of the Russians just surrounding what's left of the Swiss foot. And my poor men continue to run. It's just because they're so exhausted. I didn't rest them before I moved them into melee. But my one unit of foot guards here is taking on 2 units of Polish Legion, and they're still winning. The morale is just so low after they've lost their general. Here comes my general. He's not waiting to get into melee. Gernhard, he was excited to get his sword wet real quick on a couple of the retreating Swiss foot here. There we go, charging in. And that's the end. Victory. So here is the results and the player names. So the Red Celt and Daemon, I know, both have YouTube channels, so I'm not sure if they're going to cover it on their channels, but I think the Red Celt's name is exactly that. And Daemon, I'm not sure what his YouTube name is, but I'm sure he'll put it in the comments. But here's the number we deployed. I took a fair few losses, like I said, against England, but getting almost the same amount of kills as Don Dave. And who got the most kills? 106 by foot guards, 124 by my Jaegers. That's actually pretty solid. 210 by my musketeers. So looks like the musketeers are the victors there. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I know I don't cover a lot of Napoleon content, but it's basically just because I don't really get too many games. Most of the games that I play in, I just get utterly destroyed. It's not even anything worth seeing. It's just terrible play. But when I do get a kind of a good battle that's a close loss, or if I get a victory, then I usually will upload it. But if you guys have any Napoleon replays you want to send to me, feel free. I'm definitely not against covering Napoleon on the channel. So again, thanks very much for watching, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. And as always, I will see you in the next one.